Well, a great start to what will be, again, another over 2.5 hours of discussions around driving equity and access to healthcare services using digital technologies. And next up, leading a panel on this very same topic and really focusing on evolving the medical intelligence component of healthcare and the standard of care. We have HITLAB's own senior fellow Paul Sonnier, who's also one of the leading analysts at Frost & Sullivan and one of the global leaders in digital health thought leadership, who founded, again, the LinkedIn group, the digital health group on LinkedIn with over 100,000 members there. And we'll be hosting a panel with Sid Kandan from Stel and Ravi Komatireddy from Daytona Health, and looking forward to this enticing conversation around what's happening. And remember, everyone in the audience, this is a wide open chat box. Don't be bashful. Introduce yourself to the community, post your LinkedIn page, and talk, at least give your, if you could, give your name, your location, title of yourself and your organization where you work, and maybe what you're binge watching or binge reading or binge cooking. I don't know, but we'd love to learn more about our audience as we're diving into these sessions, because obviously, and we'd love to hear any ideas people have in the chat box as well, because the need to drive access and equity in healthcare has never been more imperative. And to lead the next panel around that is Paul Sonnier. Paul, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Stan. Great to be here. Another great event you've got rolling so far. So thank you. Really delighted to be joined by my friends today, Sid Kandan, CEO at Stel Life, and Ravi Komatireddy, CEO at Daytona Health. And a little bit more about me for folks that don't know, I am the founder of the 100,000 member digital health group on LinkedIn. So while I didn't coin the term back in 2012, I was the first to identify it as really the accurate description for what's happening with technology, digital technology and genomic technology, how it's transforming our world. And of course, we saw a lot of adopters of that term, fast followers, a lot of organizations taking hold of it, running with it. And so now we see the term digital health is widely used across the world, which is fantastic to see. So I recently joined Frost & Sullivan as a industry principal focused on healthcare and life sciences. And I'm currently working on a study focused on the digital front door, apropos this panel that I have with Sid and Ravi. And basically one of the first things I did was similar to digital health, is work on a definition. The digital front door is, sort of, in our vernacular, people think of it just as a website and say a portal to your EHR for patients. But really, it's much more than that. It's actually the virtual manifestation of a healthcare organization. And you could look at this analogous to how I define digital health as the convergence of the digital and genomic revolutions with healthcare living society. So it's much, much bigger than we think about. And I think that's critical for healthcare to keep in mind and kind of avoid the myopia, of, hey, we are only healthcare and that's all we do. That's our lane. No, we are much broader than that. And we have to look at the whole person, their health, their well-being. And that's where the digital front door comes in. And so that's why it's so wonderful to see what's happening in this area. And of course, Sid and Ravi are both innovators in this regard, doing some fascinating work. And so with that, I will hand it over. And if hopefully we have Sid, and yep, there we are. I see your guys' videos. So Sid, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company, please.
Sure. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Dan. Hey, everyone. I'm Sid Kandan, CEO of Stel. Excited to be part of this conversation. I think as Stan, Blair, and Paul have mentioned, over the last couple of years, innovation has really forced us to confront the real question of, as we move forward, who do we risk leaving behind? And post-pandemic, health systems and care teams are being pushed to implement equitable digital health strategies that are accessible and non-burdensome to staff. Learn from the pandemic that the digital divide is real. 43% of lower income Americans lack broadband, and 60% of medical facilities outside metropolitan areas lack broadband as well. 41% of Medicare beneficiaries lack smartphones. And even if they do have smartphones, there's a real question about passwords and security, especially when last year we found out that the top 30 mobile health apps were hacked. So with all of that, it's no wonder where we've seen headlines that 75% of health system leaders aren't happy with their digital health strategy, and only 6% of health systems have a full-fledged digital health strategy. So our mission with STEL is to simplify digital health infrastructure for patients, care teams, and digital health companies. We patented a passive and secure health device connectivity standard that allows patients to connect to their care team without passwords, Wi-Fi, and smartphones or apps. They simply need a hub like this, which has no buttons or switches. You just plug it into an outlet and you can use any Vitals device within 100 feet, and our hub will passively pick it up and send it over cellular right to your care team's EHR and preferred workflow. Just no password exchange. It just magically happens like AirPods. Paul actually affectionately coined our product Starlink meets the AirPods experience, so I thank him for that. For patients, they simply plug in their hub and they can use any devices. For care teams, the data shows up in their EHR preferred care platform. Seems that the chat says they can't see me anymore, so I don't know if the visuals are doing justice here, but the box here, they just barcode scan the hub ID into the EHR and the data shows right into the patient generated health data flow sheets within their EHR. So no new platform, no PHI risk, no customer data shared with STEL. And then for device companies, you can just throw our hub in the box with your product, or you can wait until our operating system is in patients' homes through the echoes, modems, routers, and different systems that are adopting our solution. Since the start of the pandemic, we transmitted millions of vitals measurements from vulnerable populations and communities into preferred health system EHRs. And we're honored to build trusted infrastructure for visionaries at health systems, virtual care teams, digital health orgs, and device manufacturers across the world. So thanks for having this, Paul and HITLAB.
Yeah, fantastic, Sid. Again, a very unique solution and kind of the master key to the digital front doors, as we've talked about previously. And, it's really fantastic what you're doing. And, kind of on the other end of that is once we unlock that digital front door, what do we do with all that information, that data? How do we help patients to improve their health, manage conditions? And with that, Ravi, you have an excellent solution that you're doing at Daytona Health. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing there?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on this morning. It's an honor to speak with all of you. Ravi Komatireddy, CEO of Daytona Health down here in Southern California. So we look at health and healthcare a little bit differently, and we're a consumer health company, and we're trying to match what I think all of us really want, which is the term we use is health span. Our company is focused on maximizing health span, and to us that means really two pillars. One is preventing in the first place, definitely improving or reversing chronic disease. And we treat chronic disease as a cluster because they're so related. So everything from stroke, heart attack, diabetes. Sometimes in healthcare, we get so busy treating these as separate entities, but we know that they have common causes and are tied together, and we treat those root causes. The second pillar of health span for us is living longer, but living well, thriving. And I think that's what we all really want. And to do that, we take a very functional medicine approach. So again, looking at the root causes, but inevitably we're led down to the path of behavior change. We just feel that those decisions that people make every day in sleep, exercise, nutrition, mindfulness, stress control, relationships, these things really matter. And the data shows and supports that they matter just as much or even more as the pharmacology that we're pushing on people, right? You can't be giving people Lipitor and then having them eat McDonald's 3 times a week. Like that's not a healthy future for anybody. So what we do to solve this problem is we take a multimodal number of coaches, everything from executive coaching, life coaching, but also health coaching. That team takes data from behavior change science, which we've codified, but also very personalized data from the kinds of things that's coming from STEL, wearable information, medical information, but a lot of psych profiling, motivational interviewing, really trying to figure out what makes you tick and what levers we can pull to help build you a system that we can coach over the course of 4 to 8 months, essentially upgrading your, not just habits, but your routines in health, sleep, exercise, nutrition, but also in work performance and relationships and time management. We've seen incredible results with our early cohorts, everything from reversing diabetes and putting it into remission, from people getting promoted, from people achieving these goals that they've always wanted to in their life and been limited by either their weight or disability or problems with movement. So it's a whole body experience of change that lasts throughout the episode of life, whether they have chronic disease or whether they are trying to prevent it.
Yeah, and Ravi, I love what you're doing. As we've talked about numerous times, it's really, I think, disruptive to the traditional healthcare model. And kind of coming back to what I said about healthcare needs to lose their myopia. And what you're doing is saying, look, here's what we can do to help improve the health and well-being of patients and consumers, and really, impact disease prevention, not just focus on, disease management and treatments. And so I really love that. And so really kind of on that note, when we look at what's happening in digital health broadly, Sid, maybe you can talk about what you see as, the problems you're tackling, and the innovations you see coming forward in the future.
Yeah, so we have the fortune and privilege to support various digital health care teams and health systems. We're in about 8 health systems from Lehigh Valley, Tower Reading, Yale New Haven Health, Jefferson, Temple, Medical University of South Carolina, Hawaii Pacific Health, and Tampa. All of them are using us in different solutions, from their FQHC, hospital at home transition of care, to remote patient monitoring initiatives. So we see a lot in slew of the various programs. I think, as Ravi pointed out, there's that human factor. That if the patient is loyal to their care team, you can see that they'll actually adopt and change their behaviors and habits. Usually what gets in the way, though, care teams care about patients at home. It's just the workflows and institutional systems that limit their ability to do that at scale and efficiently. And so we're just trying to tackle away at these small nuances that add burden and extra steps in the process. And by doing that, I think we are able to create programs at these health systems that go from tens of patients in a pilot to thousands of patients in a full-fledged program. And it's really exciting to see that evolution when that happens.
Yeah, it's interesting when you mention, institutional challenges and I guess existing structure. And so, Ravi, I think that's something maybe you might want to touch on, and as you answer this question as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I think there's two things here worth noting. So one is when I look at like what a primary care physician, the number of patients they see, and the kind of touch points they have with care team, or their care team has with a patient. Let's do an honest accounting. Like, let's look over the year and see there's over 500,000 minutes in a year. How many minutes on average do you think a PCP spends with their patient over a year? On average in the United States, is about 60 minutes, 60 to 70 minutes. And then there's, other care teams that may touch base too, maybe a nutritionist every once in a while or something like that. But when you really think about it, most of these health decisions that we all make happen in those minutes where we're at home and at work. So the majority of our health is actually being determined by things we do at home and at work. So we have to be better about getting and delivering behavior change solutions at home and work. I think that's a burden that's just not what the healthcare system is really good at doing, right? I mean, nowhere in my school I know how to do that. But that's okay. I think health is a team sport. And there are other experts that we need to start pulling in and passing the ball to. Like, if we really want to make this a patient-centered solution, that means passing the ball to dietitians, to personal trainers, to health coaches, these people that really understand motivation and behavior change. And that's not to diminish the role of our healthcare system. We're really good at putting stents in and breaking bones. We're not so good at delivering these therapies that are necessary. The other pillar on that is we've had 20 years of digital health, and a lot of people listening here will know when it wasn't called digital health, when it was wireless health, or when it was just the quantified self. And I see a market full of education, recipes, exercise videos, data, wearables. There's 4,000 apps, 1,500 wearables, 280 million smartphones in the United States. Directionally, that's not everybody, but it's getting there. So are we all really thinking that a lack of data is the problem anymore? Is that what's getting in the way of people's healthcare? Or is it really helping people stay motivated, meeting them where they are, unblocking them, and kind of unraveling or fixing this Rubik's Cube that is their life so they can actually maintain the right behaviors and take the right meds to stay healthy? So I think we got to move from the age of just information into the age of precision behavior. And that means turning all this data that we have into action. So I see companies like us as that missing wheel of the digital health car, if you will.
Yeah, I think both of you are highlighting that healthcare is becoming consumer centric, right? This trend of healthcare consumerism, we saw it accelerated with the pandemic, telehealth, people could not get into hospitals, and really, enabling this new paradigm in healthcare is key, and the benefits are profound. And so I think, I love what both of you are doing. You're both creating this new future, and really thank you, Ravi and Sid, for joining us on this call.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you so much.
Stan?
Yeah. No, thank you, Paul, as well, for running such a great panel. Thank you. Fantastic. Well, it's I love that phrase that was mentioned, that healthcare is a team sport, and it really is. And I think when we think about healthcare and life sciences as well, when we look at those two ecosystems working together to not just create new interventions to help patients around the world, but also be able to find ways to deliver, disseminate, diagnose, et cetera, using those, it's absolutely critical. So again, phenomenal job, Paul, Sonnier. Thank you for that.